Hey everyone, this is a bit different from my usual videos where it's entirely me in the moment playing a game and commentating. I assume you know what this is since you read the title and clicked on the video, but in this one I'll be making a tutorial of sorts to help new players get into Skylanders, whether it's parents trying to have fun with their kids, or people just trying to get into the series and are looking for a good place to start. If that's you, then this video is hopefully what you're looking for. I'll be covering things like the elements, good places to buy them, how the game works, the controls, and so on. I hope you enjoy.
First of all, what are the Skylanders? They're heroes from a magical world where the inhabitants live on floating islands and endless sky, creatively named Skylands. The Skylanders go far and wide across the Skylands, fighting evil, helping civilians of various and diverse populations, and collecting treasure they find laying around to get upgrades to better protect Skylands from various threats. To set in the Skylanders' places, Portal Masters use their gift of accessing the portal network to get the Skylanders to where they need to be. But this ability can only be acquired through being born with these powers. The Portal Masters seen in the games, being Chaos and Master Eon, were born with these abilities. Chaos uses his powers for evil, working to expand the darkness, while Eon used his powers to aid the Skylanders in battle to defeat Chaos's forces and protect Skylands from whatever dangers come along to conquer or destroy it, until he was turned into a spirit in the first game. After that, he sought out someone who could take his place as the leader of the Skylanders. The next thing I'll be covering is going to be the best places to buy the figures, since you can't play if you don't have figures to use in the game and a portal of power to transport them into Skylands, which I will be covering in a minute. My absolute first recommendation on where to go is Skylanders Character List, or SCL for short. They have Skylanders from all the games and keep them at good prices, though their stock isn't always the best. Some figures are just hard to come by, and SCL has to acquire the figures like we do by finding deals on them out in the wild. If you find something you like, check SCL to see if it's there, and if not, go on to the next recommendation, Facebook Marketplace and other local buying apps like it. It provides a good number of offers, and sometimes you can find gems, like when I found my Spotlight and a Dark Spider Trap. And you save on shipping since you can just meet up somewhere, make the exchange, and you both move on. If you still can't find what you're looking for, then another good spot to look is eBay. This is probably the most expensive option here, with people selling for above the figure's value, shipping costs, and other factors. But it's a reliable place for finding figures. It's up to you where you would rather look, but these are my recommendations. And I cannot stress this enough, under no circumstances should you ever shop for Skylanders on Amazon. The prices are way higher than what you should be paying to get those figures. I only ever use Amazon for Skylanders if I have a gift card I don't know what to do with. With my recommendations, however, you can find some figures for pretty cheap, usually starter pack figures. And I know that may sound lame just getting the starter figures, but these games are really good at giving you great starting Skylanders. Some examples are the original three, Gilgrunt, Trigger Happy, and Spyro. These came with Spyro's Adventure, so these are some of the most common figures you could find. You can also get T-Rex, Swashbuckler, Snapshot, Spitfire, alongside his vehicle Hotstreak, and Kingpin as examples from each of the other games. To 100% the games, you need certain figures to access all the gates, and often certain gimmick Skylanders from that game. For Skylanders Spyro's Adventure, you just need one Skylander of each element. In Giants, you only really need one Giant if you already have figures to 100% Spyro's Adventure. For Swap Force, this is where things get a bit more complicated. You need at least 8 Swap Force characters with different movement types, not important right now, that are shown as symbols on the front of the figure. Only the bottom half is important for that, though. In Trap Team, you need to buy entirely new Skylanders again, but this time they added 2 new elements that you need to buy figures for. Light and Dark. More info on them later on. But that means that you need a total of 10 Trap Masters and 10 traps to do all of the villain quests. With Superchargers, I'm pretty sure you only need to have one Supercharger Skylander and a vehicle for each type, those being Land, Sea, and Sky. For Imaginators, I'm honestly not sure what's necessary, but it takes a while. If you want to see it done, however, Logan Rexy has made a fantastic video going through everything to 100% the game. Next, now that you have gotten some figures, you need to buy a Portal of Power. Each game has its own portal design except Imaginators, which used the same portals as Swap Force and, in some places, Superchargers. As a heads up, you don't need a portal from each game. Some portals work with many games, the ideal one being the Traptanium portal from Trap Team. This portal is compatible with every game in the franchise, and it has the trap slot for the traps to have their in-game effects. The Superchargers Rift portal is compatible with most games, but not all of them, unfortunately. So my recommendation will always be the Traptanium portal. But keep in mind, Nintendo consoles and PlayStation both have different portals than Xbox. When buying a portal, make sure you're getting the right kind. There's a sticker on the bottom of the portal that'll tell you if it's an Xbox portal or a Nintendo PlayStation one. If you're buying one online, I recommend checking SCL. They offer more than just figures, and that includes portals. SCL tells you what kind of portal you're looking at, so that you can easily find a portal for the console that you're looking for. You can now boot up the game and play. The left stick on the controller is to move, regardless of the game. In Spyro's Adventure and Giants, the controls are a bit different than the ones in Swap Force onwards, so I'll start by covering the controls in the first 2 games on consoles with traditional controllers. Then I'll move on to the later games, and finally cover the controls on the Wii. So to use your first attack, you press X on PlayStation, A on Xbox, and B on Wii U. Second attack is square on PlayStation, X on Xbox, and Y on Wii U. Third attack is circle on PlayStation, B on Xbox, and A on Wii U. Then, in later games, they changed some things due to the addition of a jump button. Revolutionary. Anyway, now on PlayStation, X is to jump, Xbox has A, and Nintendo uses the B button for jumping. Next, the first attack, which is square on PlayStation, X on Xbox, and Y on Nintendo consoles. Second attack is mapped to circle on PlayStation, B on Xbox, and A on Nintendo. Third attack, triangle for PlayStation, Y for Xbox, and X on Nintendo consoles. Now if you're using a remote for the Wii, it's a bit different. To start, let's go over the first two games. A is your first attack, with B being your second. Z is your third attack. That's about it for that. Now, for the later games, A is your jump button, with B now being your primary. In Trap Team, Z is your secondary, and the third attack goes to C. In Swap Force, however, it's the opposite with Z and C. It's fairly simple still, even with the complications of the Wii remote controls, but I don't recommend using the Wii anyways. Maybe the Wii U, but the Wii doesn't run the games as well as the other consoles. If you look at each figure, you can see the bottom of their bases have certain colors, or even look like an engine or a display platform. These indicate which game the figure was made for. A green bottom to the base means it's from Spyro's Adventure, orange for Giants, blue for Swap Force, red for Trap Team, an engine for Superchargers, and the fancier base is for Imaginators. Each figure is compatible with the game it came from, and each game afterwards. And if the character existed in a previous game, you can use the newer version of the character, and it works just like the character did in that game. For example, Gilgrunt had a figure in Trap Team, but since he was introduced in the first game, I can use the Trap Team figure as if it were the figure of Gilgrunt from Spyro's Adventure. For more information on figure compatibility, I recommend finding the figure you're looking for on SCL. They have compatibility sheets listed for each Skylander, so you can see which figures will work in the game you want to play. I'll leave a link to it in the description. But you might notice that the bases of the figures don't all look the same, even those from the same game. That's because they're from different elements. There were 8 elements until Trap Team, being air, earth, fire, water, tech, magic, life, and undead, with Trap Team adding the light and dark elements. Elements don't do a whole lot, but what they do is pretty important. For example, you might find gates with symbols for certain elements on them. These are called elemental gates, and can only be opened by a Skylander that shares the element of the gate. And inside these gates, you get to see something else that these elements do. The elemental strong zones, or whatever they're called. I don't really care to figure out the official name. Every now and then the game will put up a symbol for one of the elements. And if you're using a Skylander of that element in that zone, you get a damage boost. But speaking of elemental gates, let's move on to the next topic. Collectibles. A classic in gaming to encourage players to play more. There are plenty of collectibles in these games, like winged sapphires, legendary treasures, treasure chests, and story scrolls, just to name some. You can get these through various means, like through elemental gates, like I mentioned before, or things like feats of strength and giants, swap zones and swap force, and traptanium clusters and trap team. All of which are things you'll encounter in the games and are simple enough that I don't think it needs to be covered in this video. Usually before you can get whatever collectible you're trying to get, you either have to find a secret area or complete some sort of puzzle. I'll cover some of the puzzle types in a bit, but for the most part, those are the ways you get collectibles. Collectibles can give all sorts of benefits, whether it be a bit of gold when collecting legendary treasures, or getting a 2% discount on upgrades with the winged sapphires. And following the winged sapphires, we have a very important thing to cover, that being the upgrades. To get them, you can visit a fairy in the hub world of most games, Persephone, and she'll give you upgrades at the cost of the gold you collect in the levels. But in Swap Force and Imaginators, it works a little differently. In Swap Force, instead of Persephone, we have the Power Pod that can do the exact same thing in the exact same way, nothing different whatsoever. You just go into the menu and you select your upgrades. In Imaginators, however, both are removed, and you can enter the Skylander info screen to access an option titled Upgrades that lets you upgrade at any time. The further along the upgrade is in the Skylanders upgrade tree, the more expensive it will be. After a few upgrades in the upgrade tree, you'll be given a choice between two different paths that usually focus on upgrading different attacks. Sometimes they'll focus on upgrading other things, however, like health or armor. With two different paths, they are often about even in how good they are, but other times there's an obvious winner. I won't get into it too much here, but if you really want to know the general opinion of which is better, you can go to darkspyro.net, and they have polls by Dark52, where people voted for which path they thought was the better one. It's what I use to decide which path I want to try first. But changing paths is a bit complicated. If a figure is from a game after the one they originated in, they can change their paths easily at any time. It's just one button press and you're done. With Series 1 Skylanders, however, you have to go into the Skylander info menu and reset the figure entirely. So be careful with the Series 1, or else you may have to lose progress to get the path you prefer. To build off of the upgrades, what are they used for? I think we all know the answer here. To have an easier time beating the enemies. Enemies vary in shapes and sizes. For example, there's the Chompy, the most iconic enemy in the whole series. who can bite you for a bit of damage and falls to a single hit. Then you have a bunch of large hard-hitting enemies, like the Archean Shield Juggernaut, the Greeble Ironclad, and even Chaos in most games gets like a size boost to make him giant. You know you've found an enemy if they have a little cutscene showing off what they do, and then when they run to you to attack or shoot a missile or a rock at you, then you just spotted an enemy and it's time to put those upgrades to use. Sometimes if you defeat an enemy, you'll find food, and you can also find food scattered around in certain levels. There are various types of food, from pizza to watermelon to bananas. They all heal you for the same amount, so don't worry about getting a piece of food that's worth less HP.
And finally, the puzzles. There have been so many different puzzles in the history of Skylanders, but the two most common are beam puzzles and block puzzles. With a beam puzzle, you have to move and turn crystals to aim a beam at a small crystal, usually to open a gate or a door leading to a bunch of treasure and collectibles. With block puzzles, however, you have to push blocks in a certain way to create a path by making a bridge. There are many other kinds, but if I covered them, we'd be here for ages. One more big piece of advice: listen to what the game tells you. I'm making this tutorial to help people get started and help you know what to expect. But the games do a pretty good job at telling you how things work, whether it be explaining how puzzles work or giving you hints in the top right corner about new enemies or new aspects of the games, like bounce pads, which are useful for getting to higher elevation, and bombs, which you can use to take out enemies or to destroy walls, as well as when introducing new enemies, the game will show you what the enemy does before putting it in front of you. The game just does a good job of telling you what you need to do and how to progress, at least in my eyes. Hopefully this guide has been helpful so far, and stick around because I'm not quite done yet. One question I hear a lot when I'm showing people how to play is, where do I go now? Or if I'm playing with them, often they'll just follow me around and not really enjoy the experience of just following as I do almost all the work in the game. Because of this, I think this is a very important question to answer. In the game, often you'll be told where to go using a path of coins. This will usually put you straight on the path you need to follow to progress. Sometimes they don't do this, however, and when that happens, just explore around a bit and you'll get right back on track. Don't give up on it just because the path isn't obvious. Be patient, explore a bit, and you'll find where you need to go. Another question I hear relatively often, but a bit less, is what gets saved to the game and what is saved to the figure. Things like collectibles and level progression are saved to the game, alongside similar things like the number of stars you get on each level. The figure retains some of the info, however. Golden Experience are examples of what is saved to the figures. In the first two games, heroic challenges were also saved to the figure. Heroic challenges aren't that important to our discussion here, but they are little challenges that give your Skylander stat boosts if you beat it. Another thing saved to the figures, this time until Swap Force, is a collection of quests that serve as little challenges to try and beat, like dealing a certain amount of damage, eating a large amount of food, or even beating enemies in a certain way. It also saves the hat you're wearing, what upgrades you've gotten, and their nickname, at least until Imaginators. And that's everything I can think of that needs to be covered. I'm really proud of the work I put into this video, and hopefully it'll be able to help someone somewhere. Anyways, that's all for this video, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Or maybe even in one of my streams on Twitch. I'll leave a link to my channel in the description. But that's everything I've got to say. Bye!